And welcome to Hannity, and we're coming to you live from the MGM Grand. We're in beautiful Las Vegas. We're in less than 24 hours. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, they will clash in the third and final presidential debate. Now, you can see it right here on the Fox News channel. You don't want to miss it. Now, tonight, WikiLeaks has been temporarily shut down after releasing a new round of emails that could do major damage to the Clinton campaign. We'll have all the details tonight, and in just a few minutes, we'll get reaction from Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway and Newt Gingrich. But first, after exposing what appeared to be a Democratic plot to incite a lot of violence at Donald Trump's rallies, James O'Keefe's Project Veritas is out with a brand new undercover video tonight that is even more disturbing. Now, this new tape seems to show Democratic operatives discussing ways that they could commit voter fraud on a massive scale. Now, we've reached out to the people and the groups that are featured in these videos, as well as the DNC and the Clinton campaign, all for comment. Now, Scott Volvo told us, quote, "I will not be making further comment. Legitimate news organizations should not be giving them airtime." Why not hear them in their own words? Now, the DNC, they also released a statement earlier today responding to the first video on violence being incited by these groups at Trump rallies by attacking James O'Keefe's credibility and denying that what's shown on the tape actually occurred. And Robert Creamer from Democracy Partners, in a statement, he said he would be, quote, stepping back from his campaign commitment, saying he did not want his presence to be a distraction. He also added, quote, "We regret the unprofessionalism and careless hypothetical conversations that were captured on hidden cameras of a temporary regional contractor from our firm. And he is no longer working with us." Now, while none of the schemes described in the conversations ever took place, these conversations do not at all reflect the values of Democracy Partners. And Cesar Vargas, in a Facebook post, he called it a conspiracy video. Here now with reaction, Donald Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. You know, I think the thing that we've got to focus on, and this was on the tape yesterday, is that the money, follow the money, always important, because the campaign, Hillary's campaign, pays the DNC. The DNC pays Democracy Partners. Democracy Partners pays the Volvo Group, and they go out, incite violence, lie to the American public on a grand scale, creating a false narrative that Donald Trump supporters and Donald Trump are violent. They got away with it with 3 weeks to go in the campaign. And on top of it, today we learned what? There is widespread planning and scheming for voter fraud. What's your reaction to all this?
Well, once again, Donald Trump was ahead of his time, Sean. He's been talking about this for the last couple of days. People have been criticizing him. He has no evidence. And here we see it goes right to the top. And I know Hillary Clinton's in hiding for 5 days or so with 22 or so days to go. But it would be nice if she put out a very strong statement condemning these acts, condemning this type of behavior. Talk about a different kind of pay to play. This all tells us one thing, whether you look at WikiLeaks, the FOIA request, whether you look at what's happening with Project Veritas, it's that they just can't win fairly and squarely. Can't you just go out there and tell America, this is my vision on healthcare, ISIS, the economy, growth, immigration, corruption? She can't do that. Her entire campaign is about Donald Trump. And then they run into problems like this because they're actually paying people to incite violence. Do you remember that Donald Trump had to cancel a rally in March?
And they're bragging that they did it.
They're bragging about it. And now
but that was that people's lives were in danger that night. I was on the air.
But they're interfering with democracy. And we know there are dead people registered to vote. We know there are dead people still voting. I mean, when Donald Trump says this, he mainly means what's happened in the past. And he also means that we just saw from these journalist contributions this week, 96% of the donations from working journalists went to Hillary Clinton. 4% went to him.
What a shock.
Numbers don't lie. 27-1. We know that when his accusers came forward, and he's completely denied. He said they're all fabrications and lies. His wife, Melania, last night on a different network said she believes her husband. They're all fabrications and lies. What happened? 56 seconds out of the major network broadcasts, ABC, NBC, and CBS, less than 1 minute was committed to that. 23 minutes was committed to his accusers. 56 seconds, less than a minute to this WikiLeaks. And that means 23 million people heard 23 minutes worth of that.
Because they are actually implicating the Hillary Clinton campaign
and the DNC.
And they are saying that they've created for them, quote, plausible deniability, a, quote, double bind between the actual campaign and the actual DNC. So they have implicated Hillary's campaign and the DNC, and we've got a flow of money, and now we have a check that actually went to one of the
That's right.
The
and I
dark
want to remind
operatives.
all the viewers, Sean, I'm sure they know this, but because I work very closely with Chairman Reince Priebus in the RNC and his team on our campaign, the coordination, the joint, what you're able to do is pretty significant. It's helped us a great deal. So the idea that DNC is working apart from the Clinton campaign is just a fiction. That's not true. Everybody's working together. We also know from WikiLeaks that the chair of the DNC was giving the question and answer to Hillary Clinton before one of her town halls. So there's a great deal of
by the way, and they fed questions to MSNBC hosts that they would read verbatim.
And these working journalists said, hey, if you want to edit anything out of here, if I'm over the line.
Oh, that's Politico. That's the New York Times.
And so, so excuse Donald Trump if he says, wow, I think there's some collusion going on here. Not everybody and not most people, perhaps. But this is exactly, what does all this mean? All this means with 3 weeks to go, we have the freshest and I would say greatest body of evidence to date of Donald Trump's entire point about the rigged, corrupt system, about a Washington that doesn't work for anybody except money insiders.
Especially because there is collusion on another side, too, with the emails. We have now discovered that the State Department and the Justice Department and the Obama
FBI.
White House,
Yes.
wait a minute, they were colluding with the Clinton campaign in terms of giving them information early. Obama told the American people, he said to them straight up, I didn't know about this until I read it in the press. Meanwhile, he was emailing Hillary.
He was.
And then John Podesta suggested, well, maybe we shouldn't turn over those emails, which are under subpoena. That's called obstruction of justice.
It is.
So you've got collusion on a very high level on all of these issues.
And for what purpose? All for political gain and putting everybody's security at risk, national security at risk. The other thing that's very disappointing in these emails is you find out more of what Hillary Clinton and her senior team thinks of all of us, thinks of the American people. If they're not irredeemable and deplorable, John Podesta said that he wished the San Bernardino shooter's name was
Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes.
Mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And then the other thing she said, she didn't like to use the term, average American.
Average American. Yeah. She wasn't comfortable with it.
Comfortable
By the way,
that.
She's not comfortable with a lot of things because apparently after 30 years, she's still trying to find her voice. They said, what's her core? What issues will she run on?
I'm going to put up on the screen real quick, and I know you got to go. And we'll roll the WikiLeaks, and I'll get into this with Newt Gingrich in the next segment. But these are all the things that have been exposed. John Kerry apparently shut down Julian Assange, and they now cut off his internet access. I say free Julian in the 3 weeks we have. Here's my question as we roll this. Do you think the public can absorb everything with Project Veritas, with WikiLeaks, and fully process it to the point where they understand the deep level of corruption, collusion, and contempt that the Democrats are showing for the American people?
I have great faith in the wisdom of the people. Yes, they can distill it.
I didn't mean it that way. I mean, do you think they can absorb it in 3 weeks?
Yes, I do think so, especially if Donald Trump mentions it tomorrow night in a very cogent fashion. The two I would pick out from your list there that really caught my eye today is the Clinton Foundation.
Longer.
It is. No, there are footnotes. More on the website. The Clinton Foundation was paying the men double the amount, and somebody got $346,000 to run a foundation. Wow, that's a lot of money. But double the women, the gender gap, the pay gap by gender at the Clinton Foundation approximated, frankly, the gender gap in pay at the State Department. The other one I wanted to point out to them is they put these VP nominee prospects in food groups, and if you look at the list, it's like the women, the non-politician, the quote white men,
the needy Latinos is another part of that.
I mean, it's really a disgrace. I was involved when Donald Trump was selecting his vice presidential running mate, and I assure you that that names were mentioned, human beings, the actual people were mentioned, not food groups based on their gender and their ethnicity and their race.
I wonder what I'm probably in. I don't know. Probably they put Hannity in the dog food category over at the Clinton headquarters.
You're on Hillary's list. You're on a different list for Hillary. Thank you.
Thank you, Kellyanne. All right, when we come back, more reaction to the undercover Project Veritas video. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, he'll be here next with reaction to that and much more as we continue live. We're on the Vegas Strip on the eve of this final presidential debate at the MGM Grand. Straight ahead. And about an hour and a half ago, I spoke with the author of the brand new book, destined to be a New York Times bestseller, Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. Take a look. And joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich is with us. So yesterday we got the video and we got the connections where the money comes from the campaign. It goes to the DNC. It goes to the Democracy Project. Then it goes right to these dark arts political operatives that are fomenting, basically violence at Trump events and a false narrative. Now, you watch the tape today, and here they are plainly saying and orchestrating voter fraud on a massive level. What's your reaction to it?
Well, first of all, we also now have actual checks cut by the campaign to one of the operatives. So I have a very simple first question. Where is the FBI? Why is the FBI not investigating this? If you have a deliberate, willful effort to foment violence, to break up a presidential campaign, to intimidate voters, where's the Federal Bureau of Investigation? I know Comey's in the tank for Hillary, but he has some obligation to enforce the law, and the FBI should be opening up an investigation of these people right now, including an investigation of the people at the Clinton campaign who were paying these people.
Well, let's go through the money where they actually explain it in their own words. It says the campaign pays the DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Foval Group, and they go out and execute either the intimidation, the violence, or the voter fraud. So I don't even know where to begin here. If Comey hasn't done anything, they're talking about Congress investigating before the election, but you and I both know that Congress is not going to get that job done.
Look, I think that Speaker Ryan and Majority Leader McConnell should both, in a direct letter to Comey and to the Attorney General, insist that the FBI now, immediately before the election, investigate this. This is intimidation, which is against federal law. It is a violation of federal election law. It is a level of collusion between the campaign, the Democratic National Committee, these outside groups. And some of it is clearly for the purpose of engaging in intimidation against rallies and against political activities. Now, it's amazing how fast the Obama administration could get FBI agents to a variety of places that fit their agenda, and how impossible it is to get them to simply enforce the law. But the first demand here should be, this is not about politics. This is not about you and me talking. This is about a fundamental threat to our democracy, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation has an absolute obligation to open up by tomorrow. They should be doing it tomorrow. People should be nagging them tomorrow morning. Where are your agents? When are they going in the field? Who are they going to investigate?
I'd like to know, what did Hillary know, when she know it? What did the DNC know, and when did they know it? And what did they know about the payments and what was being done? You know, we've got collusion on a lot of levels here. I mean, you have Hillary Clinton on the email server scandal. She was tipped off by the State Department, tipped off by the Justice Department. We now know that emails were sent back and forth between Hillary and Obama, and we now know Obama lied when he said, "Oh, I learned about it just like you. I learned about it from the press." Well, he didn't learn about it from the press because he was sending emails himself. And then you've got Podesta and other Clinton operatives talking about not sending what was a subpoenaed email between the POTUS, the president, and Secretary Clinton. And I'm thinking, so you got collusion not only in the email scandal, now you're talking about collusion here.
Look, this is like a bad update of The Godfather, in which Hillary Clinton is playing the Marlon Brando role. I mean, every time you turn around, this is a conspiracy of crime carried out by a wide range of people who seem to be absolutely oblivious to the law. I mean, they don't even think about the fact they're breaking the law because it doesn't matter to them. And I suspect in the back of their heads, they all assume in the end that Barack Obama will pardon them if anything actually comes down.
On the tape yesterday, Foval actually goes into how the operation is set up. Now, this is beyond the money that I just described as it's passed back and forth, but they set it up to allow the DNC and the Clinton campaign, in his words, not mine, plausible deniability in the event that the true nature of the deliberate violence is discovered. The thing that we have to watch is to make sure there's a double blind between the actual campaign, the actual DNC, and what we're doing. The double blind is there so they can have plausible deniability that they heard anything about it. Isn't that an admission that they know about it and they're just protecting them in case they get caught?
Of course. Look, a conspiracy to avoid people knowing that there's a conspiracy is still a conspiracy. What this guy is describing to you, and what the flow of money seems to be describing, is that they had a willful and deliberate effort to set out to violate the law, to intimidate American voters, and to do so on behalf of a campaign which was funneling money to them. Now, I don't care how many linkage points there are. If it turns out the campaign was funneling the money, and people clearly understood what they were doing. I mean, you know the campaign was happy the day that there was so much threat of violence that Trump had to abandon his rally in the south side of Chicago.
Well, and Hillary actually made a statement about it.
They didn't know that.
Yeah, and then Hillary makes
So
a
it's
statement
clear,
condemning the violence that her operatives organized, orchestrated, and made happen. And basically everything she was saying about Trump, she was the one that was guilty of. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, remember, she is the person who said you have to have a public face and a private face, and the public face felt sad while the private face did it.
And welcome back to Hannity Live from Vegas on the Strip, the MGM Grand, and we are here ahead of tomorrow's third and final presidential debate. Now, it's all happening in less than 24 hours, and of course, you can watch it right here on the Fox News channel. But first, here's part two of my interview with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. So, do you think the Project Veritas tapes, where we've got people literally inciting violence connected to the DNC, connected to Hillary's campaign, and institutionalizing voter fraud at a level we'd never hear anybody ever admit in the past? And do you think that, coupled with the WikiLeaks revelations, what impact is this going to have on the race, which is 3 weeks from today? Voters go to the polls.
I think all of it wears down on Clinton. I think all of it makes her even less desirable, even more frightening. I mean, if you have people doing this now, can you imagine if she has the power of the presidency, the kind of things she will do, how dangerous she will be to our civil liberties, and how willing she will be to go after people in ways that are very, very, I think, dangerous to the whole survival of the rule of law in this country. So in that sense, I think all of these pieces come together in a way that are just a further reminder of how bad she is, how bad her immediate staff is. I mean, the whole thing that came out this morning where they're saying, well, we really can't support Israel too much because that'll make our left-wing allies really unhappy. These kind of things come up over and over again, and the more you pull back the mask, the more you realize that the secret Clinton and the secret Clinton team is a really pretty, I think, very frightening system of very radical thoughts, very willing to break the law.
When you think of all of the time that the media spent on allegations against Donald Trump, most of which have now been fully debunked, although it took a week, and all the time, while that was happening, simultaneously, all these WikiLeaks are being dropped, the media paid zero attention to it. Now, we do have the latest revelations today, and I'll put that up on the screen with a long list of other things that I think would probably prevent any other person in the country from ever becoming president. The new revelations are simple. Clinton wanted Obamacare to unravel, I assume because she wants a single payer. Podesta called Senator Bernie Sanders a doofus. The campaign found a gender pay gap at the Clinton Foundation. Podesta listed potential VP candidates by racial and gender food groups. And aides thought Obama's remarks about the private server didn't make sense. Now, I'm going to continue to roll all of the earlier revelations that most people don't seem to know, but you can even take it back further. When Debbie Wasserman Schultz was fired, there was racism and sexism and misogyny and anti-Semitism on full display by the Democrats. In other words, the very things they always accuse Republicans of.
Look, when you just learned the one thing that you mentioned in passing, the highest paid people in the Clinton Foundation were 3 times as likely to be men rather than women. And just start with that single fact. And yet, where is the elite media? Where is the anger? Where is the outrage that the organization she and her husband controlled paid men dramatically more than it paid women? You know, doesn't it? And this goes back to the degree 96% of the money given by reporters to campaigns this year, 96% went to Hillary Clinton. That is a 24-to-1 ratio, and it tells you why you're dealing with this constant barrage of propaganda masquerading as news. But it's not news. It is propaganda designed to undermine Donald Trump, and frankly, his job tomorrow night is to overcome that.
You think about it's NBC. Literally, they're fed questions when Hillary's going to be interviewed. It's CNN operatives feeding questions to the Clinton campaign in advance of a town hall. It's the AP that have friendlies that they go to. It's the Atlantic. It's John Harwood at CNBC. It's the LA Times, the New York Times. It's Salon. It's the San Francisco Chronicle. It's, the Boston Globe. Cheryl Atkinson, who used to work at CBS, had an interesting piece that she put out. She calls it Newsgate 2016, I'll read you a small piece of it. She says, independent minds should be concerned about the latest revelations in the news media's unseemly relationships with government and political actors. While there are many responsible journalists working today, inside documents and leaks have exposed serious lapses constituting the most far-reaching scandal our industry has known. It's our very own Newsgate. I think that's I think that's true. That captures pretty well how deep this runs here. The point Cheryl's making is this is the largest example of total one-sided bias in the history of the American media, and that's why I said earlier today on your radio show they should seriously consider dropping the term Columbia School of Journalism and replacing it with Columbia School of Propaganda. Just to be honest, we're not talking about news media, we're talking about propaganda. CNN is a propaganda machine. MSNBC is a propaganda machine. What the networks did the night that the Trump tape came out, when they put in 23 minutes on an 11-year-old tape, and the three of them combined put in 57 seconds covering WikiLeaks, that's pure propaganda. It's worthy of Pravda or Izvestia. What do you think of the silencing? What do you think about John Kerry perhaps influencing, the silencing of Julian Assange?
Well, I think first of all, it's going to make a really interesting question, because everybody's assumed that this was the Russians and it's Putin and et cetera. If Assange matters that much sitting in the Ecuadorian embassy, then that's because it's Assange. But what you have, and you see this in all the WikiLeaks, you have the Obama administration, including Kerry, including the State Department bureaucrats, including in particular Patrick Kennedy, who ought to be fired today. You have an entire conspiracy to prop up and protect Hillary Clinton, to try to get her to the finish line, no matter how many allegations there are. And you also had, of course, the vice president suggesting that we might launch a cyber attack on Russia in response to a political event. I mean, this stuff is dangerous talk and can get us into a really big problem. But these people in the White House, Obama and Kerry and Biden are so utterly incompetent about this stuff that they could stumble into a real war if they're not careful, because they don't realize how dangerous this is.
Last question. In 3 weeks from today, the people in this country are going to go to the polls. If you had to give your best guess, who's going to win this election? Do you trust the polls out there now?
I think the polls are as accurate here as they were in Great Britain, and I think that the conservative populist movement has been winning in Austria, in Italy, in Iceland. I think it won decisively in Britain despite every poll, and I have a hunch that Donald Trump is going to end up as the next president, which will come as an enormous heart attack-giving shock to the left.
Fox News projects Donald Trump the 45th president. Yeah.
I have to tell your audience.
Go ahead.
I'm at the Reagan Library. 45 minutes from where your radio career began at Santa Barbara.
That's correct. And
a story,
that was, by the way,
story none of your audience knows.
30 years ago. 30 years ago. And you're going to be at the Nixon Library tomorrow night if people want to go out and see you. Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us. Congrats on the success of the new book. Joining us now with reaction, former Clinton pollster, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen, and Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, who's here with us in Vegas. I always think humor works in political ads.
Absolutely, and that was a very effective ad, because part of Mr. Trump's job going into this election is educating the American people of the depths of the sordidness, cynicism, and profound corruption of Mrs. Clinton and her foundation.
But they talk about the emails then. Now you got Project Veritas. Then you got the potential. Remember, the National Enquirer got a lot of other things right in the past. I'm not going to go there. But it's hanging out there. There's got a lot of balls up in the air here now that in 3 weeks could have a major impact on this campaign.
I want to make a really important point about the depths of her corruption, because I think everybody sort of knows Mrs. Clinton is deeply corrupt. I think what Donald Trump should do tomorrow night is make a bigger point, which is this. We sort of take for granted in this country fundamentals of our system that now, after 8 years of Obama and Mrs. Clinton, no longer exist. And those fundamentals are a fair and independent Department of Justice and FBI, a free and independent press that's really interested in the truth, and a shared belief in decency. I hate to tell you this, America, but those things no longer exist. And unless we address them now in this election, this country is over.
If she's elected, it's over. We're done.
If he makes that bigger point about the corrupt rigged system, rather than staying on the particulars, I think that would punch through and grab a lot of voters.
Doug, there are a lot of balls as a pollster.
Sure.
You know, when you got Project Veritas videos that showed the Democrats are paying people to incite violence and create a lie and a false narrative to the American people and scheming about voter fraud. And then you got WikiLeaks and all of those revelations about what a lying phony Hillary Clinton is. I don't think we're going to get a feel for where these polls really are, probably until the week before the election, because I think it's going to take time for the American people to sort through the voluminous information we're talking about here.
Well, and that is the challenge facing the Trump campaign, Sean, because when there's so much stuff out there that they could theoretically use, unless they're focused, and in my mind, they do best talking about immigration and free trade, her flip-flops, her private and public position. I think she's going to do less well if he emphasizes issues and corruption generally, as you suggested, rather than throwing the kitchen sink at her.
What do you think, Monica?
Well, I think he's got to do a couple of things tomorrow night, because this is really his last shot in front of most of the American people. He's got to keep the focus on the country and the future of the country and the American people, which is why he got into this race to begin with. He has to put her on the defensive with all of these new WikiLeaks disclosures that show the depth of the corruption.
It's going to take him a month to memorize it all.
Well, all he needs is a couple of real bullet points about the collusion with the media to protect her candidacy, and the collusion to obstruct justice on the Benghazi emails, and the fact that she took tens of millions of dollars, as did her foundation, knowing that Saudi Arabia and Qatar were funding ISIS.
Well, funding ISIS and abusing women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews.
Absolutely. But while he prosecutes the case against Mrs. Clinton, he also has to find a way to lay out his positive pro-growth economic
It's
agenda.
a balance. I agree with that. All right, Doug, last question. You would not want to be managing Clinton's campaign having all of this coming out now, would you?
Well, it's a challenge, but Sean, unless Donald Trump can discipline his message in the way that you and Monica have suggested, if he tries to throw everything at Hillary, the only person who'll win is Hillary. So the bottom line, as I see it, for tomorrow, is Hillary's going to want to encourage Donald to be all over the lot. If she does that, even if it smells bad and looks bad, she'll come out okay.
All right, we'll see.
Right.
3 weeks. Thank you. I love you too. 3 weeks from 3 weeks from today, you, the American people, get to decide in an important election. Monica, thank you. And coming up, Larry Elder, Geraldo Rivera, they are here with more of a debate preview as we continue live from the MGM Grand. We're on the Strip. We're in Vegas, and we'll continue. Ben is on TV. Look at that. Welcome back to Hannity, broadcasting live from the Vegas Strip, the beautiful MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Of course, previewing tomorrow night's big debate. Joining us now, Salem, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Larry Elder. And you see this guy here? Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera.
Undecided, last undecided man in America.
That's right.
Last You're sitting here telling me and Larry he's undecided. What is up with you?
I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it.
What do you mean? You really are totally undecided. What is?
Well, you know, I always held out hope on the immigration issue that he would lighten up. And really, that is my litmus.
He did.
He did, and then he didn't, and then I'm not sure, and I want to talk to him.
Okay, he's going to get rid of criminal aliens. He's going to build a wall. What's wrong with that?
Get rid of MS-13. Leave Juan and Maria, the apricot pickers.
Okay, but excuse
Secure
me.
the borders, stop catch and release, stop sanctuary cities.
That's what it is.
And he stopped this talk about deportation police a long time ago.
Well,
which I would imagine would have been the real thing that you wanted.
Do you want to go down the road of immigration or my vote, or do you want to talk about the?
I want to know. Do you want Hillary's
altered email?
Open hemispheric 600 million people potentially coming in here?
I don't.
And taking your job?
I don't.
It's still the economy.
My job's hanging in the balance anyway.
Yeah.
It's still the economy.
You're reading the New York Times, huh?
Right. Exactly.
Hillary wants to be the third term for Obama. She doesn't have any criticism whatsoever of anything Obama has done economically. Nothing about taxes. Nothing about his.
Do you agree, Larry?
March towards single payer. She wants everything he wants to do.
For the
two-thirds of the American people say we're on the wrong track.
For the first time, I come here and have something I can agree with you both about, and it is the fact that there was the State Department official, Patrick Hannity, who did request of the FBI agent that the classification be changed from secret to unclassified.
What about the violence?
And
he's doing well so far.
If you do that, the allegation is.
What about the violence?
Then I will allow the FBI a bigger presence in the Baghdad.
What about
Iraq.
the violence in the project?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was right here, sitting, not here in Vegas, but we were in New York, and I said to you when we watched that rally and the interruption of the rally by the violence
in Chicago,
I said, those are professional agitators. I said it on the air. Look it up.
You know who paid them? Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who paid them.
On tape, they say the DNC. The campaign paid the DNC, that paid the Democracy Group, that paid the agitators.
You will trace if people probe who actually knew about.
They talked about plausible deniability for Hillary Clinton.
But there was no doubt that they were professional agitators.
And what about the voter fraud? Does that bother you, Larry?
Well, of course it.
Come on, that voter fraud. I mean,
you know who believes?
Such a canard.
Do you know who believes that the 2004?
Don't you believe in the American system?
Hold on, Geraldo. Do you know who believes the 2004 election?
Yes or no? Do you believe in the American?
You know who believes the 2004 election was stolen? John Kerry. John Kerry still bitches about the election being stolen from
Hillary Clinton.
Are you talking about 2000?
2004.
What about 2000 in Florida with the hanging and all that?
Hillary Clinton in the WikiLeaks, they thought that Obama had election fraud in Iowa and caucus states.
Voters for the caucus state.
I think WikiLeaks has been a big bust.
So when they
complain
about
Hillary, one thing in private, another in public.
Was there a quid or was there not a quid?
When they complain about voter fraud, it's legitimate.
When we come back, they're going to go 3 rounds straight ahead, live at the MGM in Vegas. It's fight night on Hannity. Straight ahead. Geraldo Rivera. Anyway, welcome back. Tomorrow night, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump face off for the final presidential debate. Fox's own Chris Wallace will be the moderator. In case you haven't seen his picture in the corner for the last week, but you don't want to miss it. He's going to do a great job. That's tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, right here, Eastern, for complete coverage. And then right after, we'll be starting midnight Eastern, and, of course, 9 o'clock here on the West Coast for the post-debate reaction. Thank you for being with us from the MGM Grand, Vegas. We'll see you tomorrow night.